back to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. On the show today, Albie Buabeng joins me, and she shares her journey in interior design, which has led her to become exclusively an e-designer, and how, in addition to this, after having success as an e-designer, Albie has been inspired to create a conference and a community called the EDesign Experience, which is designed specifically to help you on your journey to becoming a more efficient e-designer. You may know of the EDesign Experience from Instagram or Facebook, but I think that you're going to like learning more about Albie and the community on the show today. And I'm just going to say right off the bat, I'm not going to wait until the outro to let you know Albie is one smart lady. Listen for how Albie narrowed down who her ideal client truly is. It was a bold move on her part, the way she did it, but it paid off in helping achieve clarity in her business. She took the time to ask herself the hard questions. Questions like, why didn't I particularly like this last project? Was it the client themselves that I didn't like? Was it the type of project that it was? And she didn't just ask these questions while running off to the grocery store or picking up her daughter from school or daycare. No, she asked herself on a very deep level. She searched and she thought. And the key is looking for and listening to the answers to these questions, because the answers brought her to the profile of her ideal client. It's pretty neat. See what you think. I'm pretty sure you're going to like it and be impressed like I was. Now, before I introduce you to Albie, though, I'm very pleased to welcome a new sponsor to the show, Article.com. You can learn the very in detail depth things about Article.com on episode 301. That was when they sponsored a single show and I sat down one-on-one with Article's Director of Marketing, Duncan Blair. And we talked about all the ins and outs of Article and how it can help you with your design projects. So definitely go back and listen to that episode so that you can learn more about our new sponsor. In the meantime, I'm going to give you a little bit of information here, though. Article has an ever-expanding collection of sofas and lounge chairs with performance-grade fabrics to bedroom, outdoor, office furniture, and decor. Article is an online furniture company actually online only, furniture company inspired by mid-century modern style and Scandinavian simplicity. Of course, they have a trade program. The great thing about the trade program is that the team that supports you at the trade program is made up of industry professionals, people who understand what's important to you as a designer and will be dedicated to your design and your project support team, okay? Now, you can get access to trade-only pricing and easy tax-exempt purchasing on their full catalog. You can get your items fast. Article's goal is to always get your order when your project needs it. They can expedite most items so that you can meet deadlines. To take advantage of these benefits and many more, become an Article Trade member today. Just go to welldesigned.article.com to register. Okay, so that's welldesigned.article.com. All right, so give a big warm welcome to Article.com. Check out their platform and see how they can help you on your next project. Now, let me introduce you to Albie. Hey, Albie, thank you so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, Luann. Thank you so much for having me. I'm kind of fangirling, so I'm really happy to be here.
Well, I'm fangirling a little bit too here, Albie.
Aw.
We met each other just this past spring in 2018 at High Point at the Kravitz showroom, right?
Yes, yes. And I was so glad that I finally got a chance to just see you face to face. It was really amazing.
Yeah, no, for me as well, Albie, it's so fun for me to take the relationship from Instagram or Facebook over to real life. I mean, of course, all of the virtual friendships are outstanding, and we certainly do. But what happens is you start at, hey, I know you, right?
Yeah. I know you're from somewhere. Oh, yeah.
That's
And
it.
it
That little
blooms.
picture in the corner there. So, Albie, you have been invited on this show because you are like Cheney Widmer, who was on the show in episode 260. You are a designer who specializes in e-design. And in fact, your entire business model is e-design. But more than that, you have now branched out to teaching other interior designers about e-design. So, but first tell me about why and how come you're in e-design and why is that your path?
Simply put, e-design, while I may not have known it at the time, was really a natural place for me to showcase my talents. I am a tech nerd through and through.
Hmm.
I love to tinker with the digital space with new technology. But then also at that time that I made that transition into interior design, my lifestyle couldn't accommodate me getting dressed and going to someone's home, just based on the way, my family was structured. So it really just made the most sense. And as I've progressed in my business, it's something that I've leaned into wholeheartedly, and I can't imagine doing it any other way
And
for what my skills are,
right.
especially.
So, and the thing is, I've had the conversation with, like I said, with Cheney, who specializes it, and there are pitfalls if you're, it seems to me, every business, you guys, like I'm a broken record, every business needs to be systemized, right, and have its processes. But I feel like that's another layer of making sure things are locked down. Do you agree?
Wholeheartedly.
Mm.
And that kind of goes to me saying it made the most sense for me because just the way my brain is wired, I'm very OCD. My systems have systems. And even
Those are
though
the best systems, the systems of the
they are,
systems.
they are, because that's also when you realize, oh, my system kind of sucks. but, but it's something that, even though I'm very creative, I'm more technical and analytical first. So for me, it again, it was very natural because I had no problem setting up these workflows and these processes, which naturally fit into operating digitally because it's something I can pass to my client and go, this is exactly how we're doing this. And they are on the same page I'm on.
Okay.
But it definitely requires an additional level of systemizing and just organization.
Yes, for me, I would think that because if I were imagining hiring somebody to do e-design for me, I think one of the reasons that I would hire them is because I want it simple, tight, no fluff, no mess, just get me
Yeah.
to my design. And if there were the type of thing where somebody, say the designer, would forward me a packet of information XYZ or whatever that next deliverable would be, and I would get an email a day or two later, oh, forgot to include this, like my brain would start to fry. I'd be like,
Yeah.
lady, I already moved on. That was 2 days ago.
And that's where it would start to fall apart and the whole experience would just be ruined. And I know for people who've had bad e-design experiences from the client side, that's typically why, because somewhere in there was oh wait, I forgot this, or this thing is missing, and there's confusion.
Right,
So for
right,
sure.
right. And of course, look, I'm the first one that says if you're not going to make a mistake today, then don't get out of bed. Just stay home, put the covers over your head. Don't bother, right? So
I
it's
love
not
that.
what's that?
I love that. I need to use that.
Yeah, right, right. Oh my God, I've been telling it to my employees for 30 years. It's like it's okay. We're all going to make mistakes, right? But the thing is that there's one mistake. There's a lot of love. But the point is that if you are aspiring to be an e-designer, theoretically, one of the reasons to aspire to it, in addition to, like you said, you have a love of the tech and all the geekiness of that to begin with.
Yeah.
But the other reason is that I think to myself is it's easier for me to scale projects. It's easier for me to do 10 projects at one time than I could if I was running around in physical space doing everything. But that's the thing, right? It's one thing to say, well, of course I would only have 1 or 2 mistakes on an EDesign. But if you've got 10 projects going on and you don't have a system for it, now everything is going to be like flying all over the place, right?
Yeah, because you have to be able to streamline. And, with time, I've, again, found holes in my process and realized, where things can be better, especially as I get more projects or different kinds of projects. But at the core of it all, if and there is a flexibility to it, but if you can't fully operate that way, it's probably going to drive you crazy at some point.
Right. And the thing is, we all know that when you're doing anything in person, real life, there is a greater ease of being able to say, like, I'm trying to think of like say you have an in-person appointment with a client, right? And you're supposed to come over and you're supposed to do 3 things that day. You're supposed to confirm the paint color, pick the window treatment color, and, check out the size of the sofa. And if you show up without, say, the fan deck for the paints, you have an in-person meeting, you get 2 other things done, you smooth it over, I'm so sorry, I made a mistake. That's so much easier to make an okay out of that than if you email somebody their package and it's missing the details.
Because also, using that example, because you're face-to-face, you ease it over, like you said. But let's say it was your fan deck you forgot, and you're like a Sherwin-Williams designer, and that was your fan deck. You can quickly hop on the website with them because you're there. So there's ways to kind of navigate it. If I forget to email you your paint options, you are now waiting for an email before you can even walk into your paint store.
Exactly.
And with that, I have a lot of automated workflows. So emails that I know have to go out with every single project, whether it's my budget check-in, I'm saying the same thing over and over. Those are automatically happening on the back end because something might happen where I'm stuck outside and I forget to send the email or whatever the case is. So that also is part of a large part of the systemizing, that automation. Certain things I never touch. I set it and forget it.
Okay, so what you're saying there is that clear me up. So you're saying there that if once you send an email packet, an email that includes the packet, that the next day you send by automation an email that says, hey, just double checking you got your packet, la, 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 or you're saying that, yes, is that what you're saying?
Yep, it's exactly that. I have my design workflow set up. So I know from the onset, the minute they fill out that form on my site, you pay, you get an email that tells you you're booking your consult. If you book it, you get an email that says, yay. If you didn't book it, you get an email that says, hey, did you forget? And then everything, because people forget, but these were emails that I got tired of just keep writing. Or I would forget to keep writing. My memory is trash, Luann.
Join the club, Albie.
My memory is shot.
Well, you have a 3-year-old daughter. She's got it all now.
Well, she has
it transfers to your kids.
I think so, because her memory is way sharper than it used to be. But I have these emails kind of timed out, especially because I know the length that I want my projects to go. So, and obviously sometimes I may have to go and stop an email, depending on if something went awry in the project. But essentially, I even have, them timed. So from the moment it's set up in the project, I know, okay, on this 3rd day, I'm sending you your design plan proposal. I still have to plug in the information, but I know that the template and everything is set up. So even if the night we spoke, I was so inspired, that night I was able to put on your plan, you're still not getting it for another 3 days because I've already set that expectation.
Okay. And we don't want them to think that everything is going to happen 2 days ahead of what you've told them it would happen.
Exactly.
Love that.
Or 2 a.m, because now they're emailing me back.
Right.
I may be working at 2 a.m. but my office hours say 11 to 6.
Right,
So,
right, right. Well, those are
all
two
that
good
stuff
points,
kind of
Albie.
happens.
Yeah, those are two good points that, if you tell them from this step to this step is 3 days, you might complete it 2 hours after you get done the first step with them. But once you've shortened the timeline on something, now there's an expectation that you might shorten it for every deliverable, and that's not good.
Exactly. And that was something I learned from experience, because I had projects very early on start to kind of go awry and it wasn't their fault. They were just feeding off of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why my systems now have systems. That's even just doing those little things of timing my emails keeps me in check. I
Right.
can't go in and tweak every single email. I won't. I add what needs to be added and it goes out when it needs to go out. They'll reply and then there's another one and then so on and so forth. I even have it set up for 3 months post project. I'm checking in to say, hey. I am actually not checking in to say, hey.
Wow.
My
Yeah.
emails are a year later, your anniversary of a project, there's another email going out. Short of me going out of business,
Right.
that email will still go out.
And if you don't turn the email off, you might be out of business and they'll still go out.
Well, chances are if I'm out of business, I also can't afford the platform.
And that's a great question. What platform performs those automated tasks for you, Albie?
Well, I use Dubsado, so that is my CRM. So it handles all of my admin stuff. So contracts, those automated workflows, my invoices, all the paperwork that would have normally lived in like a binder. I use Dubsado for that.
Okay, that's terrific. I love it. Okay, and so and the thing is, you have these email templated, but you do sometimes. You don't necessarily, it doesn't sound like you worry about personalizing it like, hi, Susie, but more you might personalize if there's extra information or specific information that knows to be included. Otherwise, does it say, hi, client, or does this program automatically put their name in it?
I'm glad you asked. So they do have smart fields, kind of like when people use like email providers like MailChimp or ConvertKit or those things. So they do have the smart field. So I have a smart field that just says client name. So it will say, hi, Luann. And I name each project. So if I'm working on your master bedroom, so I name the project master bedroom, your name is Luann. And so I would say, hi, I write the smart field client, but you'll get, hi, Luann. I'm so happy to be working on your I enter project, but you see master bedroom. And it kind of works that way. So I use the smart fields. So that's why my intake is also very, very detailed, because a lot of my smart field information comes from there.
Okay. Very interesting.
And so it still has a very personal touch. So you will still see, hi, Luann, I'm so excited that you chose me to work on your master bedroom. Kind of like when you hear the automated robot. You
sounded just like it. Your master bedroom.
I hear them often. And so you still feel like I type this in real time to you, because I still type it in my voice. So let's say it was you and Vince. I have like a couples template. And so, but it's hard for me to put both names. So instead it'll just read, hey y'all, I'm so happy to be working on your master bedroom. And things like, so it's still my fun voice, my quirky voice. So it's never anything. I mean, they can assume it's automated, but it definitely never feels automated.
Right. And depending if their level of tech savvy, if it feels so much like you, half the people probably would not expect it to be automated. I probably wouldn't. I'd be like, oh, she's so cute.
One, I send it at a time that kind of feels a little bit more natural.
Right.
Like the time that it's sent up. But two, because I've had people reply back.
Yeah.
And go, oh my God, actually, I did have a question. And so now I'm like, oh shoot, I have to answer an email.
Actually, I have to do the email thing.
I mean, thankfully it comes to my phone. So
Right. Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, I think that's awesome. It's so obvious and so clear how organized you are. That's for sure. And so, Albie, you have moved into teaching your colleagues how to do this, how to build their own e-design business. And what do you find are the biggest hurdles that they're facing as they try to duplicate and emulate what you're doing? Is there any typical things that stick out for you that you can say are more often you see than others?
The tech,
Yeah.
honestly. And so that's why I don't even really consider myself really teaching. I'm a curator and collector of the information for them.
Okay.
Because I find the resources. I don't think I am built to teach. I personally,
Built to show.
Yeah, I don't think I have the temperament to teach. My strengths lie in the research. I may not have the answer, but I will find you the answer. And so one of the biggest challenges, to answer your question, was anything related to the tech. So whether it was setting up systems, workflows, and automations, like the stuff we just talked about, finding the right platform to do this, kind of really just getting comfortable in the digital space with content and just all the bells and whistles that comes back to being online versus in person. And I think what it comes back to is an intimidation, because it doesn't come up often. A lot of the strategies and ways that we learn, even as someone who's currently in 2018 studying, my master's in this, it's not being taught in a digital friendly way. It's still being taught in the assumption that we're going to be in a firm with pen and paper, which is fine. I still put pen to paper,
Right.
But the teachings are still not framed in a way that kind of empowers people to be more tech savvy. And so that's where I find the challenges tend to lie, literally from everything from picking my system to automating my Instagram, like just kind of running the gambit across anything digitally. So that's where I find a lot of the challenges lie. And so that was why I decided to kind of go in this direction, to kind of really make it just less intimidating and more bite-sized, manageable.
Right. And I know that you recently had a summit where you had designers join you for 2 days virtually, and you had guest speakers and teaching different aspects of this. Where are you at now with this? Remind me, is it the EDesign Experience or the design? Remind me what it's called.
No, you were right the first time. The EDesign Experience.
Right. Okay. So the EDesign Experience. What I'm not clear, Albie, is was it a one-off summit? Whether it's to be repeated or not is not my question. Or are you starting a community and a membership and all of that? Like, where are you at? So designer listening is thinking, Albie rocks. She knows her stuff. So is this, I'll be planning another summit and make sure you come to it? Or what is the business model for this now?
So it actually is the conference and a community. So there is a membership. So right now the membership is in its beta. The doors will be opening again for new members. But yes, that is the kind of the ongoing, so that the learning and the connecting also, because the online space can be very, very lonely, especially whether you're like me, exclusively doing it online, or it's just kind of an add-on, or whatever the case is. Once you enter the online space, it can be very lonely. So it is an ongoing community. It is a membership group. So right now, it was a lot of the people who wanted to be in the conference, who were part of the conference, and then we're going to open the doors back up again in the fall, and then it will continue on that way until next year's conference, and so on and so forth, hopefully for years to come.
Okay. So you're building a place where designers can come and learn and talk with each other and help each other with doing e-design.
Yes, so there'll still be trainings. So almost like the conference now, bite-sized. Right. So there'll still be trainings. We just wrapped up, for example, we did a week of just talking about systems. So 5 different people from 5 different platforms came in and talked about their thing.
Wow.
With the community. And that was because, again, and I think it's so funny that that's kind of where our conversation started. Just the systems is where people start to break down.
Yeah.
So there'll be like trainings and things like that. And then just having that space of just kind of like-minded individuals. So it feels less lonely. It feels less intimidating.
Right.
And that, this is a safe place to specifically ask about whatever is ailing your online business, especially.
And are you collecting names for people who are listening that are like, I want to know when this membership opens up in the fall?
Yes, there is a waiting list. So they would just go to the EDesign It's a lot of E's, but it's exactly as it sounds. And the waiting list is right on the site.
Okay, good. All right. So edesignexperience.com. Okay. So two things that come to my mind right now. The first is that I'm a little surprised, but not shocked, but I'm a little surprised that the biggest challenge that you mentioned that designers are facing is with the tech, because I would have thought that the designers that are attracted to this are designers like yourself that excel in the tech area, but that's not the case. Some people just have the desire, maybe from a lifestyle standpoint, right? Maybe like you did, you had a little baby and you didn't have the ability to be running off and out of the house to projects. So is that the thing, that they have a lifestyle that they visualize and they don't necessarily have the skill set for the tech?
Well, it's a little bit of both, so there's definitely a lot of designers that are tech savvy, and it's really split into two schools. So most of my okay, let me back it up. When I did the conference and with the membership, I'm asking people questions as they join up, and what I was finding was majority of the designers I was attracting were already practicing designers. So with businesses 5, 10, 20 years, and we're now realizing they wanted to either switch over to this model or add on this model. Okay. And so that's why the tech was the biggest challenge.
Okay.
Newer designers who are either fresh out of school or just fresh to the industry definitely are more embracing the tech, but their tech challenges are there just in a different way. So for them, it's just more of like cutting through the noise and the overwhelm of choosing softwares, platforms. Do I work for a big box company? Do I start for myself? Where do I put my website? How do I find my people? So that's why it still kind of all comes back to this kind of digital stuff, but it's just kind of two different schools of designers. But like I said, what I found that I was attracting was designers who were already practicing for many, many, many years.
Okay.
Some were designers that I admired when I was trying to get myself starting out. I was like, oh, hello,
isn't that something? It's like, I was a baby designer a couple years ago, and now you're asking me for my help.
And because even though they're fully skilled, they are super talented in the design space. It was when they may have started their firm or their business, it was a very different landscape.
Right.
And so now they have the skills as a designer, but as an entrepreneur and as an online entrepreneur, it's a whole new ballgame.
Absolutely. It's a whole different thing. And, I'm not even sure if it was Cheney's episode, but I'm getting a recall of somebody suggesting as part of a business model, because one of the things that everybody struggles with is scaling, right? And to biting off that bullet of supporting another person and their salary and so forth like that. And so what happens is I'm recalling somebody's conversation saying, if you happen to be a firm with 3 to 5 employees, and obviously not just, but this was the conversation was about, and you hit a slow pipeline run, if you have eDesign as part of your business, you can keep your juniors busy pumping that stuff out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
right?
I don't know if it was exactly Cheney's episode that you're referencing, but I do remember in Cheney's episode, you asking, could someone's junior designer take her course, and they have that as part of their firm. So I don't know if that's that.
So you remember it? Okay.
Yeah.
I just remember having the conversation. I don't remember who I had it with.
I do remember that, and it was like along the lines. It was related to her course. Oh, I have a junior designer. I don't want to learn this thing. But
Right. Let's keep her busy.
Yeah. So, and it's one of those things that maybe it is the person who has a firm who wants to learn it, or they're sending the person below them. Oh, that sounds so terrible.
Well, we all know what you mean,
junior.
though. You're among friends.
But because that's really where I feel like, and the overwhelm of just, I work just fine brick and mortar, or at least I know what brick and mortar is supposed to look like. The internet is like the wild, wild west.
Right,
You don't know what's happening at any given moment.
Right.
And so that's where I feel like a lot of people wanted a little bit more hand-holding, which is why they gravitated to the experience. And then some of them may have been familiar with me personally. And when I say personally, I mean that loosely through Facebook groups.
Right.
But, and if most people who are in any interior design Facebook group with me knows that I am a huge nerd. So I'm always tinkering with something. So it was like, well, she's always, so this must be along those same lines. Let me go see what she's talking about.
Right,
so
right.
That also happened a lot.
So two of the things that occur to me that would be a challenge for an e-designer is the whole murky waters of specifying product. And are we specifying, is we specifying trade product? Is it impossible to specify trade product with e-design? Is it strictly retail product? I'm not sure I quite understand that workflow there with that.
There are definitely many designers do it many different ways. And I think it kind of comes down to who you're attracting. So if your clientele, if you are the e-designer who wants to be mindful of the budget conscious target shopper. So for example, I'll use actually one designer who Alyssa Turner Carnes, I believe. Her niche is moms, working moms, balancing family life, the target home goods shopper. So she sources retail because that makes sense for her niche.
Okay.
Whereas Stephanie Owens, she targets a more high-end clientele. She sources trade. So she gets custom wallpaper and things like that. So it is possible on both sides if your clientele is in that lane. I've done a little bit of both. And for me, what that looks like is a lot of retail, but then I use sites and platforms like the Design Network that have trade merchandise or at least trade pricing. Again, if it fits the budget, I use that as a resource. So my particular model is a little bit of a hybrid of both, but I know it happens on both sides. And I think it kind of just comes down to who they're servicing.
Okay. And that's a great answer. I love that you really identified that it is who your target client is. I guess I just wasn't even sure if it was part of the model to even bother to go for the higher demographic client and offer trade sources, because I guess just another layer of the agreement that if so there's execution phase as opposed to if it's strictly retail, there's no execution phase usually.
Exactly. And it's funny you bring that up because that was one of the master classes at the conference, because it is something that people tend to get confused on. And ironically, it was Stephanie Owens that led that class on trade relationships. And so like she shared examples of how she specifies wallpaper and other custom pieces. And, the legwork more or less is the same as in-person work in that you still have to get a workroom and receiver and things like that. But again, if you have that client that wants that high-end luxe, but they just maybe didn't want you in their home or need you in their home.
Right. They're busy. They don't come home till 10 o'clock at night, and that's how life is or something.
Yeah. But it's still, it's still feasible. And like I said, on the other side, if your client is more of the budget conscious, budget friendly, then you don't need trades. That's not something. But I think where, to your point, it's just knowing that it's even possible is where a lot of people are like, oh, interesting.
Right. That's exactly right. That's my aha on that too as well. Okay. And then the other challenge that it occurs to me that an e-designer faces is marketing.
I find It's no different than marketing, and nowadays, especially any other business.
Well, I guess, right. You're more likely if you meet somebody on Instagram, it doesn't matter where they live. Whereas if you aren't doing e-design and you meet somebody that loves you and you're in California and they're in New York, it's not going to work.
Exactly. Because for example, you have a brick and mortar business, Window Works,
right.
but you're still very present in the online space, alongside a ton of people who don't have brick and mortars. So I think nowadays the marketing kind of looks the same on both sides. Just to your point, now if I'm swooning over a designer who lives in Utah, and I'm like, oh man, I live in Washington, I could never work with them. Now it's like, oh, actually I can, assuming they offer e-design. So the marketing is pretty much the same kind of core principles, but not to sound like a broken record, but you got to know who you're talking to.
Well, that's your marketing background coming out, right? You're very clear.
Yes,
figure out who first, and then we figure out how to sell to them, how to find them and how to sell to them. So then I guess it just becomes make sure that, because there's tons of consumers trolling through all of the beautiful pictures on Instagram and watching, the design enthusiasts that are watching all the things that you guys are putting out there. But if you are an e-designer, make it so that they know that without having to hunt and go to your website. It seems to me there should be ways to cue them in, right? So that they don't, right? Okay. So that would make sense.
Yeah, so that they know that you are accessible, so they're not just drooling over you. And that's fine if you are in person and you just like using Instagram as an example, you just want a droolable feed. You're providing inspiration and all those things. But if you want at some point for them to go, hey, can you do this for me? And this is a lesson I learned despite my marketing background, because I even recently have had 2 new inquiries from people who not only have been following me for years, I went to high school with, but something I was doing a couple of years ago did not convey to them that I could do this for them. Until I really kind of fully owned who I'm talking to and what I want to do for them. And not in like a pushy, salesy way, in a way that just makes me feel more accessible.
Right.
And so now they're in my DMs like, wait, you do interior design? Yes, I have been doing so for 3 years.
Yes, that's me, Albie Buabeng, interior designer.
Thanks for asking. And that's partly, because not realizing that this for me could have been a thing. I was talking to everyone about everything. And once, I honed in my voice, the people I wanted to listen started to listen.
Talk a little bit about that, because we have a lot of conversations on the podcast that say, figure out your identity, figure out your voice, figure out your brand, have everything aligned to it. What do you think it is? So many of us come to it through experience, through year after year. And I know Nicole Heimer at Curio Electro, I'm a broken record about this woman because she's outstanding. If you don't have 5 years to wait to grow into your voice and figure out what it is, she's very, very good at helping you go through that process and figure it out. But what do you sound like you have a lot of ideas and tips on that. Do you have things that you can share with your colleagues about how to figure out who and what you want to market and who you want to market to?
Well, I do have my experience, but I don't, to be honest, I don't know that it'll work for everyone, because part of that experience was me taking a year off of social media. So I had to literally quiet every voice for me to finally hear my own. And it was one, taking a year off of social media. So just kind of quieting that noise, the FOMO, the comparisons and all of that. But then the other piece of that year off was to challenge myself to find my people without relying on social media. So I got back into emailing my list, because at this point I had people join my email list and I wasn't talking to them. Really exploring Pinterest. And I think we've had a Pinterest conversation before, you and I.
Yes.
Because things like Pinterest and YouTube aren't social media, so I felt okay still using them.
Oh, so it wasn't
really
like
getting
cold
better.
turkey. There was technical distinctions. Okay.
Yeah, because those two are search engines.
They
That
are.
is,
You're totally right. Absolutely. I was
yes,
teasing you, but yes.
yeah. So,
You can
but
get
that
just
was
as
something I
lost in
had
them,
to.
though. That's the thing.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So it was very intentional. That was, and so it was like, okay, let me get better at my Pinterest strategy, and then see who's pinning my stuff. I signed up for a YouTube channel and see who and what was out there. Again, talking to my list, getting better at blogging. I had to focus on my own voice to then figure out who I like, who I want to work with, who I want no parts of, and kind of go from there.
That's awesome.
So like I said, I don't recommend everyone just leave social media for a year. But I guess at the core of it, if I had to pick like the lessons, it was really just being honest with myself, about it's okay if I don't like working with a certain type of person or a certain type, like it is okay. Like there are no shortage of people on this planet
Right.
that will need my help. So I had to get honest about that and then just kind of get really intentional. And so in that time, I thought about all the projects I had worked on, whether it was with a big box or on my own, the ones that lit me up. What about that person that lit me up? What about that project that lit me up? And the ones that absolutely made me want to pluck my eyelashes out, what about them did I not like? Whether it was the person or the project. So again, quieting all that noise forces a lot of self-reflection. So getting that kind of like introspective really helped me get intentional and clear, so that when I did come back to social media, I knew that these are my people, or these are who I want to be my people, and I want them to know that I am for them. And it was really just about like getting clear. So in a more practical way, maybe not leaving social media, but kind of really just starting to curate who you're following, whether it's podcasts you're listening to or groups you're in or whatever, not listening to the what you should be, but what lights you up and makes your heart sing is kind of like my broad answer.
So smart, Albie. Really smart, really smart. I love it. I think that it takes a lot of guts to do what you did. But I also think that I can hear that you didn't just take the time away and say the rest itself is good enough. You still were intentional in the things that you were doing during the hiatus from the social media, the questioning yourself and analyzing the projects, what was good, what was bad. Very, very smart. And I would say that it's probably a really great suggestion for somebody who's feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, because that's where I was. I was overwhelmed, one, with comparing myself to other designers. There's so much noise on the internet, and it was a time especially where I felt like a lot of people were finding themselves, so we're just all lost together. And that was during that time that I found podcasts, and yours being one, and kind of started curating my learning process. What can I take away from where? I recently heard someone say this, and I absolutely love it. Eat the fruit, spit out the seeds. I'm going to take what I need and leave all the rest.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so that is something someone can do, maybe not a year off, but maybe just a week off of social media. Right. Turning off some podcasts or...
Not this one, though.
Well, no, this one's awesome. This one, especially this episode. Don't start that today.
Be serious.
But because even for me, I left a lot of Facebook groups that I felt like weren't serving me. And not because they were bad groups.
No,
weren't
right.
serving me.
Right.
You know, there were podcasts I unsubscribed to. I think I went from having like 24 last year to like maybe half a dozen now that I listen to on a regular rotation.
Right. I've done the same thing with podcasts too. You know,
it's like an information diet.
Yes, it's true. And the thing is that it probably, I don't know if it felt scary for you to do it, but it probably somebody is listening and thinking that would be crazy for me to just drop off the face of the earth and regroup. But if
I was scared as heck.
You were, see? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so wait, let's pick it apart a little bit then. Okay. So is it primarily, did you get off of Instagram and Facebook, or just Instagram? What did you take off the table? You purged podcasts. I understood that. What else did you take off the table in full?
So what that looked like for me, because thankfully I wasn't a ton of places, was just not using Instagram and Facebook personally. I still stayed in Facebook groups, and that was something I decided because they're my coworkers.
Okay.
So I did purge groups, but I stayed in groups that really felt like my community, like my coworkers, because I'm an online entrepreneur. I don't clock in. I don't have a water cooler to go to.
Right.
So I stayed in groups like Veronica Solomon's group, the Design and Style group, like groups like that I really. So I was in a ton of mom groups. I left those because they were awesome human beings, but it was still noise.
Right.
And so I think my groups kind of cut down to like maybe 8. Really 6, 2 of them were for school, so I don't count them too much. But so what that looked like for me was, again, leaving Instagram and Facebook. So I wasn't kind of hearing everyone else's voices. And then the challenge piece of it, because I call it more of a challenge, was because as an online entrepreneur, you feel like you have to be online. I can still be online without having to be on social media. So that was why, like, I got over myself and made a YouTube channel. I had never done video before. I had all kinds of insecurities, but I was like, I need to get over it. I dusted off my email list. These people gave me their emails once upon a time for a reason.
Right.
If they don't want to hear from me, they'll leave. And the ones who are happy to, finally hear from me will stick around. So I got better at doing that, at blogging. So really, I got better at creating my content. And that's especially what that looked like for me.
That's it. First of all, that statement right there of going back and paying attention to the people who already gave you their email. They've already said, hey, high five, Albie, we like what you're doing. And then to not cultivate and pay attention to them and speak to them and teach them is a little crazy, honestly. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole golden rail of doing everything to grow your email, you know, so that you have a community that you can speak to and share your services and your products and your the gifts of your person with, right? You know, what it is that you can share, right? And you weren't doing that. So really, really interesting. And of course, I think you're right. I don't think that for every person, it would need to be a year. It could be, it probably has to be more than a week if you're going to get to that level of introspection. But I don't know that for every person it would need to be a year. It could be a month or 3 months or something like that, 6 months, right? For you, it was a year because, well, you're highly organized and highly systemized. So what you said was you developed a Pinterest plan, you developed a YouTube channel. So you didn't just take the year off and think, you took the year off and implemented and then went back to your blog and everything. So one other question that I would love to know from you, since you're just so spot on with all of this. Yes, you are. Are you able to share what you now say is your ideal client?
Oh yeah. So my ideal client is, and I mean, it took me a while to find them.
Well, that's the thing. So I figured you would have it, but that was so cute that you're like, yeah, sure.
Essentially, it is a creative influencer. So a person who is like-minded, tech savvy like myself, and an influencer in their particular field. So it could be a beauty influencer, a tech influencer, who has money but has zero time and zero patience to deal with the overall process of researching and designing and all of that jazz. They love design. They have no problem shopping once you give them a list. They have no problem putting it together. And part of that, I realized, was because they're also an influencer. They're sharing their homes and taking pictures and tagging brands and doing all these other things. They just don't want to do the work behind it necessarily.
Interesting.
And those are the people who spoke my language, who got me. I got them. And I realized that, again, from kind of being in different spaces, cutting out certain spaces. And so that is my my avatar, as some would call it.
That's right. I love it. That's so cool. And really that little piece there about, and because they're an influencer, they're going to share the work of your home that you've done with them. That's really pretty clever.
Yeah.
Very
because
nice.
they're not afraid of the digital space. They just don't really feel like doing the legwork that goes into creating it.
Well,
Or they
and
don't like
also
time.
too, and haven't I would think you would have run into some. It's quite possible for somebody to be very creative in one aspect, but not have a clue how to put a room together. It doesn't. I mean, that's why you guys are designers, right? Haven't you run into creatives that are fantastic at stuff, but not at that, right?
Because they're overwhelmed with their own creative juices for the other thing that
Right.
they're creating.
Right.
So whether it's a beauty influencer, they're too busy navigating foundations and lipsticks in their brain to now add on pillows and curtains.
Right. And the
They
good
know what they like visually.
right. Well, and the good example there using the beauty influencer is that one of my sons was a very high level celebrity makeup artist in New York City, and now he's an actor. But he did his 10 or 15 years, went to the top of that game, and said, "I think I'll be an actor." Okay, and yeah, it's but he's creative, right? But the thing is that what I know about talented makeup artists, and of course I'm sure it extends to beauty influencers, is they have a gift for color. They see color in a lot of the same way that probably many of you as designers do. But so that's that's a great analogy that a beauty influencer could probably put together a beautiful color palette for their own home, but that doesn't mean they have the first clue about scale or coordinating patterns or textures and all of that. So it misses the mark, and that's where your expertise comes in.
And that's exactly usually what it is. They have, which is kind of what makes it fun, and how I realize that's what lights me up. They have the foundation of a project already kind of in place. They just don't know how to lay the bricks, essentially, to kind of build on top of it. They know the colors that they like, the textures that they like. They know what works, so to speak, kind of, sort of, but just kind of pulling it all together in a way that makes the most sense, functionally and aesthetically, is where they're just like, I can't think through this. I have 5 tutorials to film.
Right. And then add that layer to it, that even if they did want to plow through because they thought it would be fun, it's going to take them 5 times to source what they are imagining in their mind than they would if they hired it out to somebody like yourself.
Yeah. And I recently worked with someone who started her project, ordered some items. I don't know from where, but you know what? Even if I did remember, I don't think I'd say their name. Essentially, what they ordered 3 items. 2 of them were like miniature versions of what they ordered, and the third was a completely wrong color. And it was more so because they kind of just rushed through, oh, that looks right, and then they add to cart, bought. Whereas myself, another designer, would have known, actually this is the child size, or that's just the stock photo, but that's not the actual color, or whatever was happening in those circumstances. And so then she brought it up. She was like, hey, so I made these purchases and this was not a good idea.
Step away from the computer. Back away from the shopping cart.
But she's someone who knew what she liked and, therefore jumped for it. But because her own schedule and her own creative juices were overwhelming, made some poor decisions.
Very interesting. I love it. I think it's awesome. So well thought out, Albie. So well thought out. Really cool.
Thank you, Luann. And it was a process. I wish part of me is like, this would have been helpful to know 3 years ago. But at the same time, the journey definitely made it worth it. I learned a lot more than if I did it, quote unquote, right the first time. So
Well, that's the whole thing. You did do it right the first time. Whatever you did was the right thing. Your journey is your journey, and it all stacks up and contributes to your experience and your knowledge, and you bring it all to every new project that you go to. We all have our journey. We all have our path. So I think it's really terrific. And now here you are sharing your help and your expertise and your advice with your colleagues on it. And you'll be launching this membership, the EDesign Experience. So it's it's edesignexperience.com. So this
there's a the.
There is a the. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I am like the worst with this stuff, you guys. Okay. The edesignexperience.com. Okay. And so this show is going to be up mid-August sometime when you guys are listening to it in real life. So you only have probably a couple of weeks to wait if you want to get in on this. Very exciting.
More than likely, it will be opening right around after Labor Day.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Well, thanks so much, Albie, for coming on the show and sharing all of this with us today. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was a blast, just kind of talking about it, because if someone learns even just one thing from my own story, then my job here is done.
That's it, right? That's what I always say. One aha moment and we did a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Before I share my opinion with you on Albie's information, I'd like to thank our show sponsor, Camp Chroma. Camp Chroma is your online, on-demand resource for learning how to specify color. Maybe you've wondered if there's an easier way to get the color design results you want. Well, you're right, there is. In Camp Chroma, you will learn a fresh, modern approach to color that is backed by science. You will learn all about the newest expert color tools and how to leverage these exciting technologies to grow your interior design business. Get the skills you need to be the go-to authority on color in your market. Camp Chroma is an online, on-demand color training program for interior design professionals just like you. Go to campchroma.com to enroll now. That's campchroma.com to enroll. All righty. Now, big lessons from Albie. One, that it is important to manage clients' expectations from the outset, right? And the suggestion that she made is to stick to the agreements that you make at the outset with your client. And she discussed how, for example, in her case, she tells the client the timeline, when they can expect each phase of the project. And even in situations where she might complete her end of it early, she still delivers it at the time that she said she would. And the reason for this is because it sets the stage for the client that says, I will deliver on a particular day. You do what you do on the day you're supposed to do it, and I will do it on the day that I'm supposed to do it, right? This way she can stand in her space and always say, I did my things on the day I was supposed to do it. And she also mentioned once you do something early, this of course applies to eDesign, I think maybe a little bit more than full service design, but there's a lesson here, okay? If she were to deliver early, then the next deadline, the client might be expecting early. And you can't always do early, but you can and you should always do on time. And so that's a management tool. That's a byproduct of setting up the expectations of the client so that your project runs successfully. Okay. I also like that she employs time savers, such as the automated email sequence. Okay. Now, if you're interested in that and how to develop an email sequence and implementing them, the companion episode that would be of interest to you would be Kay Whitaker's episode number 259. Okay, now, bottom line, Albie is passionate about helping you, her design colleague, learn the tech and the tools that you need to be successful in eDesign. If you have the design side down but would like help navigating the online design model, the eDesign Experience conference and community just might be what you need. The doors are opening in the fall of 2018. You're listening to this in real time. The show is out the middle of August in 2018. So at this point, the community and the conference are all opening up in just under a month. If you'd like to join or to get on the email list so that more information, you have the information as it's ready to be delivered, go to the eDesign Experience.com. And if you're listening to this after the fall of 2018, definitely still go check it out. I'm sure that what Albie is going to do is have rolling admissions and different things available throughout the year. All righty. So thank you so much for joining me today. Remember to show some love to our show sponsors. We have My Doma Studio. We have Kravit Inc. We have Article.com, our newest sponsor. We have Camp Chroma. Okay, so what are you going to do? What are you going to do today? All right. Maybe today's the day that you email me wanting information on how to join the masterminds that are forming in the fall of 2018. Or maybe it's the day you're going to email me about the next Power Talk Friday tour that you want to know how you can grow your business more efficiently and with some help. If that's the case, just email my assistant, Christy, at info@Luann. No, that's not right. Christy at LuannNigara.com. So it's CHRISTIE at LuannNigara.com. And just put in that subject line, I want to be a better business person. Teach me how. Okay? All righty. Have a great day. I'm really thankful and grateful that you join me each week. I hope you have an excellent day and decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuannNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.